Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Matt here, and today I'm going to be talking about the gear required in order to shoot a CRPS or ORPS match. So this video is going to try and answer the question of what gear do you really need to shoot your first CRPS match. Perhaps you have heard about the shooting discipline, you might be part of the CRPS Facebook group, but you haven't taken that extra step into actually trying a match in person and seeing what it's all about. I know there's a lot of question marks when it comes to what gear do you really need, so I'm going to try and answer that question and show you the essentials, if you will. Whether it be a CRPS or ORPS match, the gear required to shoot them are going to be very similar. They're essentially similar style matches. They're both precision rimfire, with ORPS being a little bit more beginner friendly. They're club level matches that have target distances only out to 100 yards in 25-yard increments. So there's only 4 distances to worry about: 25, 50, 75, and 100 yards. And if you're a little bit more nervous to try one of these matches, the ORPS matches are a great way to learn. The environment is very friendly. People are always willing to help. Same with that CRPS matches, but it's going to be a little bit more competitive. So let's just jump into it. Obviously, the first thing you need is a rifle. Now, the only criteria of a rifle you can use for these matches is that it has to be chambered in .22 long rifle. You can't use 17 HMR or the .22 Magnum calibers. It has to be 22 LR. But besides that, it's a completely open playing field in terms of what you can use. It is very highly recommended that you use a rifle that is magazine fed. Not a huge issue. The vast majority of rimfire rifles on the market these days are mag fed. You can use a single shot or tube fed if you want, but you're going to be at a significant disadvantage. This here is a 10-22. You can use, again, any 22 LR rifle. It could be your grandpa's 10-22 or a custom voodoo action if you'd like, as long as it's chambered in that 22 LR caliber. Now with the rifle, you're going to need some magazines. I recommend bringing 2 to a match and making sure that one of them at least is a 10 rounder. The reason for this is the vast majority of stage are going to be 10 plus rounds. So if you only have, say, a 5-round magazine, that's not going to quite work for you. So making sure that at least one of them is a 10 rounder is a great idea. And then having a backup mag in case you have to drop a round, in case you have a malfunction, or perhaps you're shooting a stage that is more than 10 rounds, doing a quick magazine reload is going to help you greatly in that regard. So again, 2 magazines, one at least being a 10 rounder. The next thing you want to look for is a chamber flag. These are mandatory to be used at these matches, and if you really can't source one before the match director will usually have extras on hand. But it's a good idea to get used to using them because, of course, they are, again, mandatory at these matches. Now, when it comes to optics, you're technically allowed using anything, but really, since this is a precision shooting discipline, you want something with magnification as well as turrets that you can adjust in order to dial in the elevation you need to make those shots. Some really good entry-level scopes to look at are the Vortex Diamondback Tactical. The Athlon series of Argos or Helos are very popular as well. This one here is an Argos BTR. These scopes are going to be, again, your entry-level price point, but they have pretty good glass to get you started. They have nice, reliable turrets that track well, and again, you can dial them into whatever drop data you need to make a shot. And they also have really nice Christmas tree target-style reticles to help you with holdovers if you choose to use that as well. I also have a dedicated video talking about rifle scopes for these types of matches, so if you want to know more information in detail, you can check that out as well. The next thing you'd want to look for is a bipod. So any of your hunting style bipods are going to work completely fine. This one here is a Harris style. You can use the Caldwells or the Atlas. They all work great. New for 2021, you're not allowed using the bench rest style bipods. Check out the rule book for specifics on that, but they have a maximum stance width allowed as well as some other points. But again, what you have in your gun safe is probably good enough if you have a bipod that's similar to this design here. This is going to help you for prone stages where you're allowed to use a bipod, and you can also use them on different barricades in various ways. So that's definitely a good item to have. And going on to the next form of support, a shooting bag is going to be another gear item you want to look for. If you don't currently have a shooting bag, you can easily just fill up a large sock with some sand or rice and just tie up the end. That actually works better than you might expect, and it can also be used as a rear bag. A very common shooting bag you're going to see on the firing line is the Armageddon Game Changer or the Mini Game Changer, and that works fantastic. This one here is one I made myself. It's a similar shape, and having a dedicated barricade bag is going to help you greatly in minimizing the unstableness of using your rifle off barricades, and you can also use it for rear support when you're using your bipod at the front. Now, as I mentioned before, if you don't have one just yet, I would recommend just using the sock method at your first match and seeing what guys run there. You can ask to borrow some people's shooting bags if it's your turn to shoot a stage. People are generally more than willing to help new shooters, especially if they're looking into what gear is best. And then from there, you can kind of decide where to spend your money afterwards. When it comes to the ammo you bring, again, this is totally open-ended. As long as it's 22 LR, you can shoot it at one of these matches. The type of ammunition you bring is going to be totally dependent on you and your rifle. Get to know your rifle a little bit before the match and see what it likes to shoot, and then just run with it. In terms of the quantity of ammunition, look to the published course of fire for an estimated round count. My general rule of thumb is a 1-day match, I'll bring 3 or 4 boxes, so that's 150 to 200 rounds, and a 2-day match, I'll just double it. That's plenty of rounds to get me through the match, and also gives me a few extra to verify my zero in the morning. If you're shooting a half-day match, like an CRPS match, 2 to 3 boxes, 100 to 150 rounds is going to be plenty for you there. Next thing you want, obviously, is your basic safety equipment. So that's going to be your ears and eyes. When it comes to ear pro, I would definitely recommend looking for electronic ear pro for these matches. It's pretty important to be able to hear what's going on around you, but more importantly, hear what other people are saying to you. That includes the range officer giving you commands on the firing line. Having electronic ear pro is definitely the way to go. It obviously still protects your ears from gunshots, but allows you to have those normal conversations and hear voices very well. And the last thing I'm going to touch on here is a way or method to access your drop data on the fly when you're shooting a stage so that you can go ahead and dial it into your turrets or use your holdovers. The most basic method you can use is just a roll of painter's tape or masking tape. Just write down the drop data that you need for a particular stage ahead of time and just slap it on your wrist or on your scope so it's easily accessible and you can look at it as you need throughout the stage. Lots of people use this, even very experienced shooters. Another thing you can use is a wrist coach, which I've used in the past. It works very well. You can buy those online very easily. And the third version of a dope card holder you could use is something like this, where it mounts to your rifle, the side of your rifle, either via a Picatinny whale or sometimes the scope tube. This one here I made just simple business card holder that I can swap out per stage. This one here is a dope card holder from X-Ring Armory that mounts onto the Picatinny rail under your scope and then provides you again with a nice little card for you to access your drop data on the fly. So having your dope easily accessible during a stage is probably going to be more important for the CRPS matches. Since RPS matches are only out to 100 yards, again in those 25-yard increments, it's a lot easier to just memorize the drop data that you need. I'll give you a little bonus tip. For most rifle and ammo out there, your 25 and 50-yard hold is going to be just your 50-yard zero, given the size targets we shoot, and that only leaves you with having to memorize your 75 and 100-yard drop data, which is pretty easy to do once you've done it a couple times. All right, so I just want to give a couple tips to those new shooters as well. First off, dress appropriately and prepare for any weather conditions. These matches go rain, shine, or snow, or what have you. Some of the worst weather conditions I've ever shot in have been at these CRPS matches because otherwise I would probably just stay home. So look to the forecast ahead of time and plan accordingly. The next one is very related. It's all about staying comfortable throughout the day. You don't want to go hungry, so make sure you bring enough food, snacks, and water and liquid to keep you hydrated. Besides that, just try and have a great time. Try and learn as much as you can at your first match. Obviously, you're going to be pretty overwhelmed with the amount of stuff happening, but talk to other guys in your squad. Try and see how they're using their gear and equipment when they're shooting stages. You're going to learn a ton, and even take notes if you have to. There's a lot to learn at these matches, and as you go through more and more matches, you kind of get more comfortable. I'd also recommend not to get too intimidated. Again, I went over the essential gear items today, but a lot of guys bring a lot more gear with them at matches. But when it comes down to it, it's 99% the shooter, and a lot of people just have a lot of gear like myself because we just like to try new things. Anyway, I hope this answered some questions as per usual. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. I'll see you guys in the next video, and take care.